Hey, what's going on YouTube? Alabama Reloader here. So coming to you today with another project. Happens to be another Savage bolt action rifle project, but this is a Savage 110 chambered in 243 Winchester, and it happens to belong to a buddy of mine, Adam, and his son Cade. So shout out to them if they happen to watch this video. But he reached out. I actually reached out to him. They had gone hunting, and his son had a chance, Cade had a chance to shoot a buck. Ended up, unfortunately, he wasn't able to take the buck. He shot a few different times, ended up missing. And so I reached out and was like, hey, I'll be happy to check everything out on the rifle itself. Just make sure it's good to go. And then I will also work up a load for you if you would like. Well, that's actually a different rifle. It's not this particular one, but when I reached out to Adam, he responded and said, hey, I actually don't have that one at the moment. It's at the in-laws house, but I do have one that I'd like for you to take a look at. So of course I agreed. It is a, like I said, 110 chambered in 243 Winchester. This one has the internal magazine, so there's no detachable mag on this version. And let's see, it's got a Nikon. This is the Buckmaster's scope on it, 3-9 by 40. So, and one issue right off the bat, the scope is not, the reticle is not level to the bore, right? So I broke out the Wheeler levels here, just trying to check everything, make sure the scope is in fact level, but it is not. Now the problem, normally that's not an issue because I would just make it level. The issue comes in with this front scope ring, and the screw that is holding the scope in place is sort of rounded out on the inside. And so I can't really, and I don't want to mess with it, right? It's one of those where, again, not my gun. I don't want to go messing with that scope ring. So it's not canted too badly. It's still very much a usable hunting setup, but the scope is not perfectly level. So, and I don't want to go messing with this screw up here, ending up, you know, hogging that thing out even more, creating more of an issue. And so we're just going to leave it be. What else? Oh, one thing I did notice right off the bat when I picked it up, started messing with it, I did test the pull weight. You know, just I ran the bolt and then pulled the trigger just like I normally do. Made sure everything was clear, of course, for the safety weirdos out there. And it was a pretty heavy trigger pull, so I broke out the Lyman trigger pull gauge, the digital gauge, and it was averaging over 3 pulls, it averaged 4 pounds. That's a really heavy trigger in today's world, right? Of lightweight triggers, adjustable triggers. A lot of manufacturers are including those in their firearms now. So 4 pounds is just, that was pretty rough. I haven't pulled a 4-pound trigger since those, I believe it was those single shot, those H&R handy rifles that I worked up some loads for. Those are typically some pretty heavy trigger pulls as well. So this one's pretty bad. So I'm gonna tear it apart and go in and fix that. That way we reduce the trigger pull, make it much easier to shoot, just sort of improve the shootability of the whole setup, which makes a big difference when you're in the field. So that's, let's see, that kind of went over just some of the initial stuff. And then I did go ahead and clean it. Of course, I'm a big fan of Pro Shot cleaning stuff. I've got their cleaning rods, some of their patches and brushes and bore mops and all that. And then Vortec is really good. I use their cleaning solution. So gonna get all that, gonna get this torn apart, not tear it apart. Right, babe? Yeah. And my wife is over on the couch and she threatened me when I told her I was gonna include her in the video. So we're not gonna risk our life today. But he did also send along some of this stuff. He sent along a box of the Federal PowerShock 100 grain. So the plan is get this thing squared away in terms of adjusting that trigger pull. I got it cleaned up, good to go there. Get it all put back together once I get done tearing it apart. And then we'll hit the range, test this stuff. So we'll shoot all 20 of these rounds. Now that we have a clean bore, we'll shoot a handful, and then from there we'll probably shoot some 5-shot groups, maybe just a few 5-shot groups. We'll check accuracy and velocity of this stuff, and then come back and begin the load development process. Probably gonna go with the 90, 95 grain Nosler ballistic tip, something along those lines. I think that makes a killer 243 round, and just go from there. So you guys stay tuned. All right, so since I made that first section of the video, or from the time I made the first section of this video until now, it's been about 3 to 4 weeks worth of time that has elapsed since then. Got really busy with some trips for work and just didn't really have time to focus on this 243 Winchester project. But now that I'm back home and I can circle back around to it, I am changing the bullet that I'm using. I know I just mentioned that I was going to use something like the Nosler ballistic tip 90 or 95 grain bullet. Switching that, going to use the Spear 85 grain Spitzer boat tail soft point, or Spitzer point, Spire point, whatever you want to call it. This guy, this is an older box of bullets, but it is an unopened box of bullets, so box 100. We're going to give these a shot, see how they do. And the powder I'm going to pair it up with is IMR 4895, so it should be a pretty good classic combination, I'm hoping. And maybe we'll have some good performance out of it. I went to the Spear manual to check the load data, and thankfully they have this bullet listed in their actual printed manual, because if you go online and look at their load data on their website, they do not have the 85 grain bullet listed. They go from 75 to 90, which I also have the 90, so I could use it as well, but I just want to test out these 85, see how they do. IMR 4895, it's above average in the velocity category, so I mean you're closer to the top than you are the bottom, right? Above average in our velocity window here, so it shows 3249 on the top end, which they use 41.5 grains of IMR 4895. I will test up to that. I'm going to do 5-shot groups, so we'll load up to 41.5, and I'll jump in 4/10 increments on our powder charge, and it'll be loaded to 2.625. So there's the load data, and I am using, these are the Federal primed brass cases, the ones I picked up from American Reloading. I wanted to use these. That was really the purpose of picking up the box of primed brass from American Reloading when they were, I think they're still running the sale on these guys, and I believe they still have some 243 in stock. But I wanted to get a box of those for this project in particular, and I went ahead, and what I did with these, so I have a Lee 243 Winchester sizing die, and I ended up chopping off the decapping pin from that die, because it's all one piece. The way Lee makes theirs, it's all one piece. It's not like Hornady, Redding, some of these other companies that make a decapping pin that you can remove. On the Lee, you have to physically just chop the thing off. So that's what I did. And I have a Lee universal decapping die anyway, so you know, I use all that to decap my brass. I don't need to decap while I'm full length resizing at the same time. Do that in a separate step. But I did that so I could run this brass up into the die to get, you know, any abnormalities ironed out in terms of the neck and all of that. So yeah, just went ahead, did that to these 25 pieces, then put a chamfer and a deburr on the case mouth. And like I said, they were already primed, which I'm assuming with a Federal large rifle primer. So one can, I think it's safe to make that assumption. So that's the brass that I'm going with, and yeah, good to go. So this will be our 41.5 grain charge, and then, you know, it'd be 41.1, and then so on and so forth. We'll just step down like that. So, all right, let me get these guys, let me get the powder dumped and everything loaded up, and let's head to the range. So y'all sit tight. All right, so real quick before we head to the range, so went ahead and loaded up one of these guys. This is at 2.625. That's what we're looking at. And on the case fill, I'm not gonna be able to see it, but this is the max charge, and it's basically where the shoulder begins. Yeah, pretty much. Trying to get a good idea. Yeah, maybe slightly higher than that, but that gives you an idea of case fill. And of course, there's gonna be some settling with this powder also, but that takes place. So I don't believe we're gonna run into any issues with compressed loads or anything like that. So yeah, just gonna go ahead. The die is now set up using the Hornady 6mm bullet seating die, and then the Micro Just seating stem on top. I did shoot the Federal, that box of Federal Power Shock, the 100 grain stuff. This is a 12-shot group. So I did a 3-shot group as well. That's what the 3-shot group looks like. And then I shot 12, captured all the velocity data in 2 groups of 6. And one group was 28.15, the other group of 6 was 28.21. So, you know, around that 28.18, 28, yeah, somewhere in that range would have been our average for the 12 shots. That's with the 100 grain load. This is an 85 grain load, so we're definitely going to be picking up some velocity. So yeah, I just wanted you guys to see the case fill on this and the Federal brass. Let me get the rest of these seated and let's head to the range. All right, guys, so real quick look at the target. There's really not much to write home about, but before we do that, I'm thinking tag-alongs might be my favorite Girl Scout cookie. I don't know. I'm kind of having a hard time deciding between these, or I think they're called the Lemon Ups, maybe. The lemon cookie that they sell. God, those lemon cookies are so good, especially with coffee. But man, I'm a big fan of chocolate and peanut butter. So these tag-alongs are really good. That box is now empty. So ran into a bit of an issue out there on the range. So this is the 41.5 grain max charge that's listed in the Spear manual. So we stuck to the manual, went up to the max, and used their cartridge overall length, which was 2.625. That's what these are loaded to. This is the 85 grain, the Spear Spitzer point, the boat tail. So I think it's a good bullet choice. However, not sure why, but we are way above the velocity, at least the velocity that the velocity number I thought we would hit, because we were already over 3,200 feet per second average with 39.9 grains, which according to the manual, we should be at 3,200 feet per second with 41.5. So the lowest charge we tested, which that's toward obviously the top end, you know, that's toward the upper end of the charge weight range. But our average for 39.9 grains was 32.25. So that was our average. And then this next 5-shot group, so this is 40.3, we were at 32.68. And then 40.7, we were at 32.92. I had one shot that was like 33.15. That's insane. So overpressure. We need to go back. I'm gonna pull these last 2 5-shot groups. I'm just gonna pull those bullets. And I was cratering primers from the start. This is at 39.9 grains. So yeah, cratering primers. I didn't have any stiff bolt lift or anything, and the groups really weren't anything to write home about, 1.5 to 2 inch groups. So, and it hit extremely high from the point of aim. My point of impact was high, so I just dropped it down for the next 2 groups. But yeah, so definitely above where I thought we would be. Yeah, so just kind of wanting to go back to the drawing board. We need to run this much lower in terms of our charge weights that we're going to test. So we'll probably drop it down to maybe 39 and below, still jumping 4/10. So I need to go prep some more of this stuff, some more of this Federal prime brass, which Federal, to my knowledge at least, is the case capacity is slightly less. The internal volume, it's thicker brass from what I understand and just what I've seen that's being posted out there. So it could be that it's simply some thicker brass, so our internal volume, we're already starting off with a more restricted internal volume and working up near and at the max load. It just could be a combination of that, right? Where it's maybe that, could be chamber dimensions, who knows what could be playing into this. There are several things that could be contributing to what we're seeing. But yeah, we're just way over the velocity that I thought we would be seeing. Like I said, got up to over 3,300 feet per second with, I think it was 1 or 2 of those last shots in this third group that I tested. So that's crazy fast. We're gonna back it down. We don't need to go that fast. You know, I want to be north of 3, but we don't need to be blazing that fast. Plus the groups weren't that great. So we're gonna back it off, see if we can find better accuracy at a slightly slower velocity level. So, all right, that's it. That's where I'm gonna leave this video. I've got some more work I've got to do. I've got to get some more brass prepped, get some powder dumped, and see some more bullets, and then go back out, hit the range, and do some more testing. But I want to go ahead and get this one posted just so you guys can kind of follow along and see what's going on with the project and how it's progressing. So that's it. That's where I'm going to leave it. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and stay tuned for more on 243 Winchester with this 85 grain spear bullet. So we'll catch you next time. Y'all have a good one.